When we hear the word contract, we usually think of big, serious stuff, right? Like buying a house or a car. But what about all those little agreements we make every single day? That coffee you bought this morning, that haircut you got last week? Turns out, those are contracts too, and they are packed with unwritten rules that protect you in ways you probably don't even realize. So, just for a second, think about it. In just the last week, how many agreements have you made where not everything was spelled out loud? I'm gonna bet it's way more than you think. In fact, if you've bought a coffee, ordered lunch, or even gotten a haircut, you have entered into exactly this type of contract. Every single one of them relies on these really powerful hidden terms.
All right, let's break this down. Let's look at some simple, everyday examples to really see the difference between what we actually say out loud versus what the agreement really means. Okay, imagine this. You walk into a deli and you say, "One sandwich, please." Super simple, right? That's the spoken part. But there is an unspoken and totally crucial part of that deal, that the sandwich is safe to eat. You don't have to say, "And by the way, please don't poison me." It's just understood. It's baked into the agreement. Or, let's take another one. You hire someone to build you a bookshelf. You don't need to give them a long list of instructions like, "Please use your skills correctly and try not to be careless." The implied term, the unwritten rule, is that the work will be done professionally with a reasonable level of skill and care. I mean, that's the whole foundation of paying for a service. So this hidden rule that makes sure your food is safe and that services are done competently, well, it's not just a nice idea. It actually has a formal legal name. And that name is implied terms. This is the legal concept that transforms our basic, everyday expectations into agreements that actually have some weight. So what are they? Well, implied terms are the obligations that are automatically woven into a contract. They're not written down, they're not spoken aloud, but they are there to guarantee fairness and to make sure there are basic standards for goods and services. Honestly, the easiest way to think about them is that they're just the common sense part of any deal. They are literally the terms that go without saying. But here's where it gets really powerful. This isn't just about good manners or hoping for good customer service. These implied terms are actually backed by the full force of the law. In fact, the law specifically steps in and creates these implied terms just to protect people in everyday situations, especially when it comes to the stuff we buy as consumers. For example, the source material we're looking at points to the Australian consumer law. This piece of legislation basically writes these protections into the rulebook, giving them real teeth. And, similar legal frameworks exist in many countries all around the world, all designed to protect us. So let's walk through how this actually works. Step 1, you enter a contract, something as simple as buying a new toaster. Step 2, the moment you make that purchase, that contract automatically includes implied terms, like, the toaster will actually toast bread and won't catch on fire. And step 3, those terms are supported by law, which gives you options if the toaster turns out to be a dud. So why does any of this matter to you? Because understanding implied terms is really about understanding a fundamental right that you have in almost every single transaction you make. You can think of them as your silent protection. They're always there, working for you in the background every single time you buy a product or pay for a service, making sure you actually get what you paid for. These terms are the reason you can trust that products are safe and that services will be done properly. They exist even when there's zero paperwork involved. And crucially, they give you a legal basis to do something about it, like get a refund or a replacement if those basic standards just aren't met. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. Implied terms are what turn a simple cash for goods exchange into a reliable, trusted agreement. They're pretty much the invisible engine that keeps consumer trust running. So, I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Now that you know about these unwritten rules in our contracts, what other unspoken social or professional rules do we all rely on every single day just to make life work? It's a pretty fascinating thing to think about.